All right, everyone. Welcome back to the first. Actually, I would say welcome everybody to the first iteration of Trial by Fireside. Uh, I'm actually very excited for this project. But first off, let me introduce everybody that I have with me right now. Now, we are missing one person. That is deltamarket. He's on his way home, but he will be back on time for the cast. But for me to keep me company, I got fleskore here with me for the pregame segment, but also for the match, and I got Antlers here on production. So, fleskore,
Howdy, howdy, what's up?
I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm glad to have you here. For those who don't know, fleskore did do newbie mixes in the past, so it's not his first rodeo around teaching amateur players or
Oh,
amateur level players at this, but at
not
least
at
for this
all.
time, at least in this kind of experience.
I don't think I've ever done it live before. So,
Yeah, this is our first time, and we have a lot cooked up for this first iteration of Trial by Fireside. Antlers and I have been developing this project since I would say the first week of season of season 8 playoffs. So we did do a few casts there with the amateur and newcomer grand finals, but we have a lot cooked up for you today. Uh, we actually are going to do this pregame segment by I would say a brief impromptu overview of Gully Wash. So, for those who don't know, the first week of this season, the map is Gully Wash, CP Gully Wash F7, and we're gonna try to breeze through this, not keep the players delayed. Fleskore, how are we feeling? Coming into this quick impromptu map review.
I've done plenty of map reviews in my life. I definitely had to talk about it. Did have two teams that I coached throughout the season, so it should be pretty simple. Just because we're not gonna be going super in depth on Gully Wash, we're just going over like the basic strategies of how to play the mid, how to attack mid whenever you're pushing it, or how to defend it. Stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and actually for this, we're gonna have me. We're gonna do a have antlers going into my picture in picture screen, I guess. I don't know, something like that, but he's going to broadcast what I'm broadcasting on the screen. And, anyways, if you'd be so kind to show them what we got in store right here. I'm ready on my end. Antlers, let's cut the screen to me. So, to start off this impromptu map review, we're going to have me. I don't know if you see on your screen here, but we do have a bird's eye view of the Gully Wash mid. And also, we do have a nice little feature. Hello there. We're going to be drawing over the Gully Wash mid and parts of the Gully Wash map to start off this map review. So, first off, I want to introduce you to the basic concepts of Gully Wash mid. Fleskore, would you feel free to take this away from me? Let's start off first with the callouts, shall we?
So for some of the basic callouts that we do have, obviously we do have the center point. I talk sometimes it's referred as nipple, sometimes it's just like point. Whichever one works. Uh, Basically you want callouts to be fast, efficient, and recognizable. So everyone in your team, there's no confusion about it. One of the confusing aspects about this that I often hear is the difference between elbow and banana. So as you can see on the screen right now, the banana is the shorter side. Um, just so and elbow is like the longer one, the one that you actually like go up towards whenever you're rolling out. So you could call it rollout. I've had some teams call it short. I've had teams call it long. So, but for the most part, as long as your team knows what you're calling out, that's what matters the most. Outside of that, you basically do have the rest of them. You have the floor to play with. Underneath the floor, you have drop down that leads into the chokes.
Yeah, let me actually give you a level view of this area that Fleskore is talking about. So if we go a bit down here, you can see here on the screen, if I just quickly use my nice little arrow right here, this is the drop down that he's talking about. This lower floor here that he's referring to is this sandy pan area. So, this drop down area can be used in many ways, but for the most part, a lot of the normal typical roamer rollout does have you starting off and landing towards this drop down area. And if I do take myself a little bit down here, you have this little view that you can see the enemy team's choke. So if you are fast to rolling out as the roamer and you get 2 mid, you can use this little area here, this little window below the point to spam the choke and get some good damage onto the enemy team as they're rolling out up their elbow.
Uh, do be aware, the enemy roamer can also do the same thing, and it could result in an impromptu 1v1 where you're isolated from the rest of your team. So definitely worth it. Just kind of like shooting a couple rockets, reloading them, and then just playing it by ear based on what your team wants to do. So for the mids, we do have like two basic ones. We do have an aggressive mid, and
Yeah,
we also
so let me actually go to the bird's eye view for this. We're gonna first go over the aggressive mid that fleskore was gonna talk about. Fleskore, what was the second one actually? Sorry to cut you off there.
so along with the aggressive mid, we also have the sandwich mid, which does use drop down.
Yeah, so on here we're gonna talk about aggressive mids. So I have my little stylus pen here. Um, First off, to start off the aggressive mids, there is a basic, positioning setup for your team on gully wash mid. So on gully wash mids, like we just mentioned about the floor, typically your roamer is going to be positioned around this area right here. Whereas if we use my yellow highlighter here, your combo and flank scout and both your scouts are typically around this upper high ground area. Now, you might be confused. Why is the roamer specifically on the lower floor here that we have highlighted in blue? Fleskore, can you tell me exactly why for this aggressive mid we want the soldier to be typically positioned towards this lower floor here?
One of the biggest things is, as you saw, usually since the scouts are going to be there along with the combo, uh, looking at the floor is counter isn't necessarily encouraged just because you have to like peek over real hard, and sure it's an easy kill just because you have high ground over them, but because you're having to push forward, the enemy team can just and you're distracted, the enemy team can just come over, shoot you, you die, you lose the mid. So along with that, with the roamer at the floor, the roamer can play with timing. The roamer can bomb up and land on the nipple. The roamer can land on top of the team. Can land on like the little window sills that you see there, like on high
Mhm.
ground, and just do a whole bunch of damage. And while that's happening,
Oop.
obviously the roamer should be calling out. So like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm bombing in three. And that lets your team know, okay, we have 3 seconds, and in those 3 seconds, we're going to start pushing forward, because the enemy team is either going to be distracted by us pushing forward or by the roamer that just bombed them. And in doing
Yeah,
so, it's basically kind of like a Zerg rush, and it's too much for them to deal with. And if damage is dealt and communication is achieved, like proper communication is achieved, it's a good way to force them out of the mid, because either they have to deal with you or they have to retreat into the corner. And, if they're in a corner, that's just easy pickings.
yeah, I do want to talk specifically about, a good cue to start off an aggressive mid. Like, when do you normally want to call an aggressive mid? So, this is where communication is really key in TF2, communicating with your team, positioning of the enemy team. A really good indicator, usually, for most teams is listening to their demo call. Hey, I got really good damage on the enemy team. Is there any way we can go on this? So, for example, if you hit the demo for 100, the demo will say, your team's demo will say, hey, I hit the demo for 100. Can we go on this? Or you want to go on, let's say, a positioning or a timing on that. So, for example, here, I'm going to quickly switch to my green pen here. But I'm going to draw this little area here. And this area here is considered a enclosed space. When the enemy team is positioned here, it's really bad for them because when you have your soldiers bombing, because your soldiers are a projectile based class, it's very easy for them to stuff that doorway and to stuff that little enclosed area that this team is positioned in on this green line. And as your team walks across point, because when you consider they have this entire space here, they have this much space compared to this enemy team's based on this line right here. Like, if you see how much positioning you have, you can just take off that. You can just walk across point and deny all that area. And because they're in an enclosed space, there's so much damage your soldiers can do on their bombs. Fleskore, what do you think about positioning on mids, especially for this aggressive mid strategy?
You have to be light on your feet and you have to be listening. At the moment, if you feel like you can't, if your roamer is going to go in, but you can't follow up, be sure to communicate that as well. Like, let's just say your team is also eating a bunch of damage from a bunch of spam that the demo or the soldiers are giving out. It's going to be really dangerous for you to like push in because you won't have any health. And they're just like, okay, yeah, this guy's just walking into me. I'm just going to shoot him with the rocket. They're going to die. But high ground is key. High ground is always key as any class. Soldiers, for the pocket, you could bomb right next to your roamer, but uh, bombing on top of the point is just as effective because you get to see most of the mid, and if they retreat like into the place that Jay said, it's just easy pickings. You just walk forward and you shoot at them. This positioning actually does also come into play with the sandwich mid that I do want to cover.
Yeah, so next we're gonna go over is the sandwich mid. But I also do want to say for this aggressive mid, there is an alternative to how the roamer can position themselves in anticipation for this mid. So I'm gonna erase this little area, and instead I'm going to show you where the roamer could be alternatively positioned. So as you remember, this little area here that I'm circling in blue right now is called the banana area. You could technically, oops, you could technically have your roamer go into this area. So let me mark that with the roamer, with this R for the roamer. And if he's positioned around this area, he can actually go for a surprise bomb here instead of being positioned towards the floor there. But instead of hide, and what he would do to make it a surprise bomb is he's hiding behind these two planks here that are right next to this R for the roamer. And I mean, the real good thing about this is in terms of an aggressive mid, you're surprise bombing to where they won't see you until the last second. When do you want to do it? It's really up to your feeling as a roamer, and it's just up to you to decide. Hey, I want to do this kind of bomb for the mid if we're gonna do an aggressive mid. But the flow of TF2 is really decide things on the fly. You know, read the situation, and each situation is going to be different from one another. It's going to be unique, and the circumstances behind each situation are going to be very strenuous, I would say. But like Fleskore said, let's transition into this what
So
was it, the sandwich mid? I
yeah,
do believe we were talking about the sandwich mids here. So we're gonna actually switch down to this small view here, showing the drop down area, and we're gonna and Fleskore, would you be so kind to walk us through this sandwich mid that you so speak of?
so with the sandwich mid, it works more or less kind of like the aggressive mid, where you do want to push them into the tiny little corner area that you see, like at the very end of the image. But the roamer will be going up drop down instead of bombing into high ground or on top of them. And in doing so, what you're doing is your enemy team is basically just going to push them, and they're going to be like, "Whoa, this is a lot, you know, this is a lot to deal with. We got to retreat. We should retreat." But guess who's there behind them? The roamer, buffed up, ready, all four rockets coming up from drop down, and not only that, but also has plenty of cover. So right now they're currently stuck in the middle of they either have to deal with you, and in doing so, it's going to be really difficult because they're pushing in an enclosed space, or they have to deal with the buffed, angry men running towards them, ready to kill.
Yeah,
It
so I do want to point out the roamer, where the roamer will be sandwiching. So as he goes up through drop down, usually the team, like Fleskore said, they're going to be positioned on this high ground area right here. But as the roamer goes up drop down, he's going to go up here, rocket jump up. He's going to corral around the health pack. You know, camp that health pack too, because, you know, team medics, as they take damage on mid, they usually like to go. They're usually positioned around here, and then they have to go back to the health pack. But lo and behold, your roamer's going to pop up. Once he gets a good timing, your team is then going to take their heals across point with the demo and the scouts, and then the pocket soldier's going to follow up with you, and they're just going to all corral the team in this big area right here. Fleskore, do we have anything to add to the sandwich mids that you really want to take note of? Maybe there's ways to counter it as the enemy team.
uh, a good way to counter as the enemy team is that if you notice if you don't notice or if you don't know where the roamer is, like your other roamer, your roamer isn't able to see them or just saw them go drop down, you could just send in your pocket to go deal with them and take the 1v1 because the roamer at this point isn't going to be buffed all that well. But your pocket get a buff, come over here, and since they have to rocket jump up, it's 4 rockets versus 3 plus they're hurt. And so you just kind of take that fight. And now once you win that fight, it's going to be 6v5 and the enemy team no longer really has like a good balance, like no burst options that they could do. So the only way they can win this out is by having better spam.
Right, and Gully Wash mids, I do want to mention, as a matter of fact, are the only type of mids where it's really hard to play a passive mid. So there's other maps in the map pool that are like Sunshine, for example, where you can spam and you can play passive and mirror the teams around the mids. But for Gully Wash, the more you stay passive on these mids, the more susceptible you are to just taking too much spam. And because there is no real, I would say, there isn't a wide enough skybox where you can, or a wide enough space where you can just traverse around the mid and just kite around that spam. Playing passive just makes you more susceptible to aggressive bombs and just eventually whittling your team down and just dying and wiping on the mids without really taking any initiative, so on and so forth.
It's also it could also be pretty predictable if you continue. You don't want to do it all the time. As good as it is, you never want to do it over and over and over again because a good team will figure out, okay, the reason we're losing is because the roamer's pinching us. If we kill the roamer, they have to respond to that. And if it is a trick, you should always have a good bag of tricks, but you want to make that bag of tricks big, massive. You always want to be able to pull something out of your hat. Don't rely on a strategy too much because eventually people will figure out how to counter that strategy.
Right. And actually, to go off of that mixed bag of strategies, we're going to go straight into pushing mid. So let's say, for example, you're currently on your second. You're going to be pushing into mid. Fleskore, what is the ideal time to really push into mid, though? Most people think, you can just push into mid anytime and just win off of DM, but there are some countermeasures you take before pushing into mid.
So a good thing, whenever you're pushing into mid, like you lost the mid fight and you're going into it, Uber advantage is probably the biggest one. Just because it's hard to push into here. You have big door, which is really big and open, and you have no high ground there. The enemy team could just be on the point and they'll be spamming you down, and it's kind of like D-Day. You just kind of have to like force your way out of there. It's really hard. You could go up banana, but at that point you've taken a lot of damage. Or you could also go up elbow. Or if you're going through choke, it's an enclosed space. You can get easily spammed there as well. You could go drop down if you're really crazy, but again, you're giving up high ground. So having having the Uber advantage, is always going to be helpful, just because that invulnerability, like all that spam damage or positioning, doesn't necessarily matter because you're buying space with the Uber. Another thing is numbers advantage. If you have 6 people alive and the enemy team only has 4, sure, they might have someone big door, they might have people choke, but they're not going to be watching it all that well. So you could just force 4 people through one door, your whole combo. Scout, soldier, demo, medic, and you could have your flank push the other door, and the enemy team will usually rotate where the medic is just to deal with that heals versus heals. But they can't contain all of you. They can't contain your whole team, and they either have to realize, okay, we either have to fight this and try to win, or we get out and hold second. Most
Right.
teams will go for the latter because it's a lot safer that way.
Yeah. And generally, pushing into gully mid is really, really hard to do because you have to go when you push into these choke points. Look at all these potential secret chests you have to clear. Right here, if you're pushing through choke, you have to clear all of these. If you're going through a big door, there's a potential for a sticky trap here, here, and around surrounding these walls. And the real only safe place that you don't expect traps in is normally drop down. But drop down is really hard to go through just because when you're pushing in, you start off on the low ground, so you really have to. So if I go into in game here and I look at the view from drop down, look at how much viewing area do you have before you really walk out here and you expose yourself to all these angles that you can get spam from too. So after that, after you get out into this exposed area, you have to walk yourself up to high ground, and because you're focused on first off avoiding the spam, two, getting your team on the high ground, it really makes your team susceptible to a good force if you're not keeping track of where the soldiers are bombing from on these meds. Uh, we're kind of we kind of don't want to delay the teams a little bit, so I do want to talk about defending mid. So I'm gonna switch my view here, and there's like three scenarios that you really want to go over when you're defending mid here. There's kiting, in which you want to kite out of mid when you expect a team to push into mid, for example, on Uber ad, and they're going to instantly use. So as they walk through choke, which is right here, or they go through drop down, or I mean big door, they're going to instantly use their Ubers and try to get your team around here. So you want to go out and go back to second. Just avoid that without having to lose any of your players. At the very most, when you're kiting out of an Uber, you really only want to lose your roamer. If you lose more than one player, or you lose a combo player, specifically your demo or medic, that might entitle you to going all the way back to last. Teams normally don't push drop down, but there are times in games where they do. So just be aware of that. But the other scenario that I do have here is when you're holding on even Ubers. So fleskore, could you walk me through holding mid on even Ubers and just working sacks in general here? How do you want to position yourself on even Uber situations while working sacks?
So whenever you're working sacks, it's always whenever you're going to be sacking. First off, it's always going to be the person that's going to be attacking that sacks first. And how do you determine that? It's whoever owns mid. So if you own mid, at that point you can comfortably send in either a scout or your roamer to go out and sack. Usually, what I like to do is I have the demo and the pocket soldier holding close to choke, making sure that that's being stuffed, making sure that no one can get in through there. A scout could just be kind of like floating nearby, watching underneath in case someone sneaks out and drop down, or because this is an even Uber situation, anything could happen. And you have your flank watch big door. It could also be the reverse. Sometimes you might want to send your combo here just to distract big door while your roamer goes out choke. It all depends on what your team wants to do. But generally speaking, you want your combo to be together and you want your flank to play together. Um, Now, a sack won't do anything on its own. The sack needs help. So if you're gonna send in your roamer to bomb in, your roamer cannot perform miracles. Your roamer needs to have support from the combo. So have the combo kind of go in, peek, not necessarily peek super heavily, but just kind of distract. Like bring eyes to them. And because they're not looking at where the roamer is going to be bombing. The roamer can bomb in through big door, through choke, and do his thing. Force the medic, get a kill. You don't necessarily have to go for the medic. Maybe you can go for the demo. Maybe you could just trade with like a soldier or a scout. What the goal of the sack is to make sure that your team remains in a positional advantage.
Right. That you you took everything that I was going to say pretty much out of my mouth there, and I do want to talk about positioning yourself when you're pushing in a second here. So we're going to go straight into red second here. I'm going to give you a bird's eye view, everybody, of this second point here. This is one of the more. This is different from the mid simply because second is way more free. So if you look around here, there's a lot. There's an open skybox. There's a few hiding spots too here. I do want to mention on choke, as you push into second, there's this little balcony area here that you can see that a roamer might like to position themselves towards. Or maybe they might even be a little bit up here. This is a little hiding spot that some people some soldiers like to position themselves towards. It's more of a gimmick spot that you should play when you're on disad. But fleskore, pushing into second here. You have two options here. I do want to go over choke first, so take it away pushing into choke.
So we are gonna have to make this really fast, just because we actually do have 11 players in the server. It's just about time for the actual cast. But for choke, this use this as a transitional area. Do not stay here a lot, just because you notice how small and cramped it is. A sticky or a rocket or a pipe hits anything in this area. If you're in this area, you're just gonna have a really bad time. Well, assuming that you stay there.
Yeah, and also note, pushing in a second here, some demos, if this cone is here, they do like to hide stickies here. So make sure you have your pocket or whatever soldier you have shooting this cone, because you want to make sure they clear the stickies there. Let's quickly swap over to big door here. This big door area does have a hiding spot too, just like choke. Roamers may position themselves hiding above this little shutter area as you push in through big door. If you have shadows on, you can actually see it. But if a soldier positions themselves really well, they could be hiding and drop your team pushing in through big door. When you push in through big door, just note the enemy team's combo may be positioned here on this river area. So this is what we call river pushing into second. Technically, when they're here, it's going to be hard for them to really expect you if they're all positioned in this area right here. So it's important for you to, catch them on the timing if you want to use in straight from big door. When you go in through big door, make sure you have your roamer or pocket, whatever soldier you have pushing with you, jumping up and locking down this river area here. It's important for them to lock down this river area just so they can force the combo out and they can't spam you above this high ground. If they commit too early, though, if they commit for too long, it is possible you could catch them out as they're falling back from river. But it's generally advisable that when you're pushing in through big door, have that roamer bomb in, or have that pocket bomb in, and walk down this river area. Moving on for holding second here. Generally, your combo needs to be positioned towards choke. So generally, they'll be around this area here, whereas your flank, which I'll color in blue, will be around this big door area. fleskore, can you talk to me really briefly about holding second here?
So yeah, as Jay said, you usually want to have your combo here. Combo where the green area is, the blue area is where their flank is. If the flank needs heals, don't be afraid to like tell your other flank player like, hey, I'm gonna go get a buff. Um, but the reason why you want to do this is because uh the combo can stuff out choke really well, and the flank, your job isn't necessarily to stuff out big door. It's just to make sure that nobody gets through for free. If you notice that people are there, there is scenarios where this could switch, where instead the combo plays where the blue area is, and the flank plays where the green area is. That's assuming, and usually what you want, usually when that happens is whenever you notice that the beam, like the medic and their enemy combo, is at big door. You don't want your flank players without any heals to fight the whole combo by themselves. So instead, you always want to keep combo versus combo. You want to make sure that if they're gonna get in, make them pay for it. Make them use a lot of resources. If they're gonna push into second, make them use Uber. Make them sack 3 people. Uh, make them pay, because this is yours. You don't want to lose this. Because after you lose this, you have to go hold last.
Yeah, and like fleskore said, swap around wherever their combo is. So remember, positions aren't set. It's just there's just a general precursor of how you should default hold. Depending on the situation, like we said, there's many circumstances in TF2 that may lead you to having to rotate your players around. Like it's like chess. Move your chess pieces around according to what moves your opponent makes. So, moving forward from second, we're going to go straight into pushing into last. Usually, teams after they cap second, they like to climb up into. But we're kind of running on time. We're gonna have to cut this map review short. But I do have Delta here with me. Delta, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, and we're gonna go straight into the game here. So we do have the Go TV on hand I'm gonna have Antlers switch all the way to his screen. We're gonna go switch straight into the game. So while we had to cut our map review short, we did go over some really beneficial information for newer teams as they traverse through the divisions of RGLTF2.
Alrighty. So, uh,
Yeah, so I do want to introduce the rosters here, So we do have an amateur match coming in for today. We have ISYMTL versus Super Soft Birthday. I looked at a bit of the teams here. Some of them did have newcomer experience coming in, but some of these players do have their first season coming into TF2. Can we quickly run down these lineups here for us, fleskore?
yes, I'm just going to shorten it to IYS because it's a long acronym. We have Zakoton on the medic. We have Strange Diplomat as the demo. Ubermorth is going to be the pocket. Wonton is going to be the roamer. Microsoft PowerPoint, yes, you read that correctly, is going to be the flank, and we have Garrick as the combo scout. For Super Soft Birthday, we're going to have Crepe as the medic, Frogs as the demo, Epic Disc as the pocket, Gigos as the roamer, Son as the flank scout, and Rose as the combo scout.
And fleskore, I remember you told me a little bit before the pregame, you have some interesting facts for these players here. Tell me what you got.
So as you said, some of these players, it's their first season playing, so this is going to be the first big boy match. Might as well get your feet wet in the best way possible by having your first match be casted. But so for IYS, Strange, Garrick, and Microsoft all placed third in newcomer last season, and this is so there's some team chemistry there. These people, seasoned veterans, they know what they're doing. So looking like a little bit of a stronger team, at least compared to Super Soft Birthday, where I do believe this is actually a newbie mix team. Uh, Newbie Mixes does run the newbie mix drive, which we've basically set up new players to create teams, and you get assigned a coach, and you play for that whole season. You're guaranteed 8 weeks. You guaranteed 8 weeks of coaching, 8 weeks of matches, assuming the team doesn't die. Uh, and it's a pretty welcoming experience. It's pretty nice. If you're experienced TF2 and you want to help out the community, definitely recommend doing that. Or if you're new to TF2 and you want a place to start, go ahead and go to Newbie Mixes. Every Friday at 9 p.m. EST, they run Newbie Mixes. Pretty great place to start.
Yeah, and I do vouch for that. I came from newbie mixes originally, so it was a pleasure to learn from some pros at that time. Like, for example, I learned from Kevin Espone when I was newer. I played earlier back in like 2014, so that's still going strong. Um, Before that, we're getting close to starting time here. I do want to go over how this match is going to be casted. So we're gonna do a mix of casting and analytical stuff. So we're gonna have fleskore and Delta on the mic. I'm gonna be asking the questions around, providing them to give those pointers as we go through this. And we're going live right now. Deltamarket, would you be willing to take us away for this first mid?
I'm having a bit of connection issues to the server, so not yet.
So
All good. So here we have instantly. We actually have Gigos go bombing directly into the big door. Is going to be getting a lot of damage. Strange Diplomat is going to go down with a nice follow up from Epic Disc. But looks like right now the numbers are going towards the side of red. They're doing really nicely. Wonton is underneath. Ubermorph is going to find Dark. And oh no, this is really dangerous coming in from the side of blue. Super Soft Birthday at the current moment has to retreat. And this is going to be a really dominant mid coming in from IYS. So
yeah,
really well done.
they took a really aggressive mid there, which is kind of surprising for the side of Super Soft Birthday, and it really got punished for that. They really their soldier took a really aggressive bomb into the big door, and he just got punished for it. So I don't think they really had really good positioning for that. And now they're gonna run is as IYS into River here, and they're actually taking the fight.
Oh, it is even Ubers. It looks like we did see. Oh, they actually lost both soldiers there. This is actually really big. Strange Diplomat is gonna hit a fat pipe onto one of the scouts. Oh, they're losing players fast. They need to hemorrhage this. Oh, it's only up to the medic and the pocket. Oh, but we do. Oh, the medic actually does die, but looks like Strange Diplomat says, nope, not dealing with that, and is going to be going straight to last. There's going to be no one contesting him here, and this is going to be the first round for
Well,
IYS.
I do want to say, Flask, we are seeing a clash of playstyles here, and we've talked about how Gully Wash can be in a map where you need to be aggressive, and that's what Super Soft Birthday is doing. But it's a bit too aggressive, I would say. You know, they're kind of taking these fights and just walking into those choke points that we mentioned in the map review and getting stuffed for it. But let's head into the second mid here. Fleskore, take it away.
So yeah, going straight in, we do actually see Gigos again going for an aggressive mid position. Actually, both soldiers are going to be positioning towards their choke, but it seems to be not working out all that well. Epic Dis is going to be the first casualty here. Gigos is also going to go down, so that's going to be no soldiers, but Frogs fighting a 2 frags. That's going to be both scouts. Oh no, Dark is also going to be finding Uber more. The numbers advantage is going towards blue side. Frogs is going to go down to a wonton bomb. And here we have Rose going in going straight through the choke alone. Actually, is going to be able to get out, thankfully. And looks like the fight is going to be continuing. A soldier's going to be bombing 2 scouts. Rose right now bullies out the demo, but this is going to be a red win for mid.
Yeah, and you saw there, like we said in the map review, you don't want to be stuffed at your choke. And that's what happened to IYS there. But wait a second, the medic got bombed from Big Door. So they will die, and I think they're trying to sell right now. Our IYS, they're trying to go and salvage for the medic, but they're losing everybody for it. At amateur levels, generally, when you lose your medic, it's not ideal to go in one by one. So Delta, why isn't it good to go in one by one when you're salvaging for the medic? Why do you want to go in with your entire team?
Everyone's just going to die if you go one by one. You're probably not going to do anything. If you go in all together, you'll definitely kill the med, and you might actually just win the fight.
Yeah, and we do see here, because of that, the sides have flip-sided. It's right now, it's IYS in the driver's seat trying to push from mid in the second here. And we do see fleskore, like we mentioned in the map review. We do see the combo positioning towards choke with their combo, and you see the flank set with Microsoft and Uber holding towards Big Door. How are they going to break this hold?
It is an Uber advantage to blue. Like, blue can definitely just kind of go in, but looks like they want to play this a little bit passive. Maybe they misread the situation, but the heals are also just not all there. So it looks like we are going to be stalemating Ubers here. Ooh, really brave play coming in from Garrick, running straight through the choke, possibly trying to see anything. But look at the flank right now. Look at Big Door. There's 2 soldiers right here having positional advantage in this place. Is it going that great? Strange Diplomat is gonna be dropping. Oh no. And there's gonna be a full wipe coming in from the side of IYS. Actually no, excuse me, Super Soft Birthday.
Wow, that was insane. I think there was a problem there for IYS. We saw Transformers. He did hold his Uber. You know, it's not ideal to milk your Uber, especially when the enemy team does use their Uber early. You want to save as many players as possible there. So now they're gonna have the driving seat pushing in a second, our IYS, and they're gonna try to push into last here. Delta, is it really ideal to push with your demo down?
Definitely not, and it looks like the Ubers are actually going to somehow equalize here. Maybe they weren't properly building.
Yeah, and I do see here Strange Diplomat is coming back up. Even Ubers, like Delta said, they're currently trying to take the fight into River. Is it optimal to really take this fight for Super Soft Birthday? Do they really want to be fighting River this aggressively?
No.
Yeah, no.
Now, why would you say that, though?
So I would say there's 2 reasons. The first is, looks like there's an Uber going on. I don't think Super Soft Birthday is going to get forced here. But back to the original question, you can get back-capped because the enemy team can sneak in somewhere, and lobby is also pretty hard to hold. There's a lot of doorways. There's a lot of room to just have one player get in and kill your medic.
Right, and we can see here that they're going to use back in our Super Soft Birthday. They're going to catch up the demo here, pushing into River. Fleskore, what's going on here?
It seems to be like, the IYS just wasn't prepared for their Uber, and that was actually a really good Uber. They did get that soldier and a demo, 2 crucial picks, but looks like they're not playing together at the moment. There is somewhat of a back cap attempt. Dark is going to be finding that frag there, and they are able to finally get out of last, but at the cost of really bad positioning. Right now we do see IYS still in the river area. We have the medic up there as well, which is a little bit concerning because they can be pinched right here. We do have Gigos bombing in, getting the health pack, taking the 1v1 against the soldier. The medic is close to Uber. Oh, this is not looking too pretty. Oh, this is really bad for IYS here, but they do force. They do get the frag, and it's actually could lead into a pinch if they do coordinate this well. But for right now, it's not looking too great.
I'm wondering how they can actually get out and save their medic here, but it looks like Zaquaton's gonna die there. Is it ideal to really keep your medic alive there for that long, even if they can get Uber?
No, you should try and get Uber and then immediately leave through big door in that situation.
Yeah, and we can see the consequences there where IYS they're gonna wipe here. I mean, obviously it's gonna be a flurry of frags on both sides, both teams losing at a minimum of 3 players. How do we rate Supersoft's birthday handling of the situation? It seemed like they were able to clean up the combo for IYS there pretty easily, Flask.
They played it really well. They did, they understood the like, hey, there is a soldier and a medic there alone, so let's not go in one by one. Let's push in as a team. Waited out the Uber. Did force out the Uber, and their Uber right now is actually working phenomenally. Is going to find Zakaton, so that's going to be even Ubers. Gigos is going to find a really nice air shot onto Microsoft PowerPoint. And despite the Uber, it's not looking too pretty for them. The post fight isn't looking too great. It's all up to Gigos right now. 53 HP, and IYS did manage to win that.
I do want to point out there, Delta, you're a soldier main, obviously. You played Pocket a lot. You saw all the soldiers there from IYS, Wonton, and Ubermorph. They recommitted after the Uber exchange. Why is that good timing for them to commit their bombs and sandwich after the Uber exchange?
Supersoft birthday was clumped
I
up.
believe they were kiting it. They were kiting the Uber, right?
Yeah,
So.
everyone on top was on top of point, and so bombing there is just really good. You can do a bunch of damage.
It looks like we may have lost Delta there for a second. I believe he may be having connection issues.
We looks like Supersoft does manage to find second here, so it is working out pretty well. They did it without losing any players. That's pretty great. But Gigos is going to be found out playing a little bit too aggressive here in the big door. Definitely want to be careful there. Again, whenever you're defending, you don't want to be. You're not in the driver's seat. You want to make sure that you're just stuffing them. You want to make sure that they don't get through the big door, without any consequences. Like Microsoft PowerPoint at the moment, peeking really aggressively. But again, he's playing alone here. It's gonna be evenish. Uber's Frogs is gonna go down. That's gonna be a big crucial pick. Losing the demo, that's a lot of spam being lost from the choke. So this is actually favoring red team, and looks like they understand that this advantage is really big. But unfortunately, they're all hesitating. Oh no.
Yeah, if they spotted, they could have seen there's only one soldier there. It would be pretty easy to bomb their roamer through, or maybe even have their demo try and put stickies there to keep him away. That would really let just everyone come in, force the Uber, and because the choke door, when you force the enemy team, you can actually back away from the choke, and if your soldiers spam it, the other team can't get in, even if they're Ubered.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough situation. Right now we have Wonton fighting choke all alone, barely lives, but even Ubers at this point, with the shortened round timers, we only have 3 minutes left on. Ooh, that's gonna be a demo pick, and looks like blue team is wanting to push off of that. We do see Epic Disc go in alone, but his team is lagging a little bit behind. They're all really hesitant. They're not knowing what to do. Frogs is gonna go down. Rose is gonna go down. They're just losing players left and right. It's only up to Gigos and Transformers. Transformers is all alone. 10 HP is gonna be dropping the Uber. Oh no.
Yeah, right there. Big door would have been a better door to push because everyone from IYS red team was just sitting in the choke, and you can't walk through that doorway when everyone's over there.
Ooh, big scrappy last fight. It's not looking too great. We do have some point pressure, but it's not. But despite having the full Uber advantage, looks like IYS does manage to fumble the bag right there, and that's a really good hold coming in from Supersoft Birth. They played it well, took the high ground on the little ring, as I like to call it, on last, and right now they're in a good position. They do have 20% advantage, which if they play it well, this could lead into a one mid, if not a round.
Yeah, one thing Red
Stalemating yet again. Looks like we are gonna have some building coming in from red side, trying to equalize these Ubers a little bit. Ubermort's playing really aggressive all alone, is really weak, and this is not looking too great. They're all positioned here in the choke, wanting to push in, wanting to get something done. But again, they're just hesitating. They need someone to make that call. They need the main caller just to be like, all right, we're gonna go through choke. I want a demo. I want to scout. Or I want, oh, looks like they Uber in a little bit too early. Frogs is gonna be going straight in, thirsting for the medic. Ooh, Zakaton is at 99, barely dies, and this is looking really great for Super Soft. They do manage to get a lot of the frags, but they are getting back capped at the moment. Wonton is going to be hitting with one of his signature bombs. Is going to be finding Rose. Is going to be doing lots of damage to Frogs. Oh, but he's going to be losing the pickaxe battle to Epic Disc. And how the turntables of, you know, they were defending, they were holding second, and now they're attacking second, and they can do so pretty easily. Um, you know, there's still not a lot of respawns. You do see them kind of like shuffling into second, and looks like IYS decides elects to just holding last, getting ready, has a sentry up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this sentry position. It looks like if they push Shutter, it'll just die immediately. Not sure how well it watches River. It might see point a little bit. The better spot would probably be on the top right or the top left near the spawn doors.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't. It, I, Epic Dish just kind of peaked River for free, and it's not. You know, I have seen this sentry placement work really well, but it's usually not behind the pillar. It's like in front. It can cover a little bit of main. It can cover shutter. It can cover launchpad, and it can cover river really well. But yeah, looks like it's
Yeah.
gonna be a double stack coming in from Supersoft. No, nothing gonna be found, but also no exchange.
Now, guys, I do want to ask based on this last. I don't know if we didn't have time to cover it up for the map review. There's two ways really to push and get a sack in the last. You can send in your typical roamer bomb, but could we go more in depth into baiting the cap and dragging the enemy players for the sack? Delta, could you tell me more about this bait cap sack scenario?
Sure. One thing you have to make sure is that the enemy demo isn't in water. He can trap the entrance under point. Looks like there's an Uber coming in though. Going to die on Supersoft. Supersoft Birthday's demo is going to die, and they are playing points, but it looks like a lot of Supersoft Birthday's players are dying. Then the Uber is forced out late.
Yeah, I do wanna mention there they did push in with Uber ad. I mean with even Ubers, and it's not really ideal to push into last. But Delta, continue your point you were talking about earlier there.
Yeah, so you can get a scout under point, and then you'll coordinate with your team, and you'll tell your roamer, okay, I can go to point in 2 seconds, and you go on point, and right after that, your roamer can bomb, and while he's in the air, the roamer can decide if they want to land on the medic or on point, just wherever a clump of players are, and that really just increases the effectiveness of the sack attempt.
Right. So now it's turned into an even Uber situation. Fleskore, instead of pushing in the last day like they did with an even Uber, how would you recommend them to break this sentry setup that they have here on last on the side of IYS and get a force off?
So with the sentry setup right now, it's positioned behind the pillar. What the demo's doing right now works really well, but you want your combo there. You want the medic close by just to make sure that the demo is being healed, and maybe just a soldier there as well, just to stop anyone from like wanting to push forward. They did get the sentry, but at the cost of a demo, so not necessarily the best situation. And looks like we might have an Uber trade here in River. A really aggressive option coming in from IYS, and they actually do manage to get 2 frags off of that. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, they get
Oh
3, but they're down 2
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, a little bit of a costly They did use Uber for it, and right now they're having to hold last with full Uber disadvantage. At the very least, they did get 3 frags, so Super Soft can't push in for free. But once they get the respawners, once they get all the buffs, they have full Uber to play with.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
pushing into this last, how are they going to get their first round here? What is the ideal way to push into last with Uber out here, Delta?
Well, the first thing is you want to end on the high ground, and you want to go straight into the combo, lock out the spawn doors, or kill the players who are in. But the demo being dropped there really makes that difficult. Supersoft actually coming out with the DM here might be able to win this with their scouts.
Oh! Really well played.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Delta, what worked for them there? I mean, they dropped the combo really early, even though they lost their demo there. So they had the heal advantage in that last fight.
I think it was that IYS red team really had their entire team on the top left area just in, and so you don't want to have that because the enemy's Uber can come straight into you and kill you. If more of their players were towards spawn, I don't think that would have gone so well.
Ooh, I actually kind of do. Both the soldiers right now on mid wanted to press the demo, and that's going to be a quick death for both of them. You don't want to lose both of your soldiers here on the mid just because it can be really dangerous because you don't have any bombing power anymore. That's the majority of the reason that you want to push across. Right now, it's all up to the demo and the medic. Frogs holding on for dear life, trying to do everything he can, taking the demo 1v1. Oh, barely surviving right now. Transformers says, nope, I'm out of there. See you later, buddy. I ain't dealing with that. But despite everything, looks like the med and the demo do stay alive, and they are going to be able to hold second off of that good play off of Frogs.
So while there might be a lull in the battlefield here, early on that mid, like you said, Supersoft Birthday did lose their soldiers early. But why was it so bad for them to bomb so early? Couldn't their team just have followed up on that?
The main reason is they followed up, they bombed a bit too early, and their team wasn't necessarily in a great position. Although their team could have just ran forward, it would have been too late. Ideally, you want to bomb. You want to be bombing in whenever your soldiers are still alive, still doing damage, just so there could be a distraction at the very least. Ooh. But this Uber push right now isn't looking too great. This is looking like a massacre for the side of Supersoft. They're doing a really nice job chasing down these frags. Garrick is gonna find a consolation prize on the frogs, but looks like it's gonna be trading all around. Transformers is gonna go down, so this could be some Uber advantage coming onto the side of red.
Yeah, also, Red did get some better spawns here, so there is an opportunity because they have heal advantage to try and kill the lower health players. It looks like Derek's just running in on his own. That's probably not advised. Um, although, maybe considering it's even players, that was a viable sack attempt.
I mean, that is true. You do own mid, you can sack in, whatever you like. But ideally, whenever you're going to sack in, you want to ensure the highest possible chance of success. And a solo scout going in doesn't necessarily cut it out most of the time.
Hey, I do want to take note here. If we do look at IYS's position, we have Strange Diplomat the demo towards Big Door. Now this is a very unconventional setup here. You see the two soldiers on with a wonton and Ubermorph towards Choke, and Strange is towards Big Door. This is not a very conventional default second hold setup for IYS, but this could, with Strange here being here, the demo could be caught out really early, Delta, because he doesn't have the power to bomb away like a soldier normally does.
Well, this hold might not normally be the default, but usually this hold can work out quite well. There is a scout with the demo. Not being buffed can be a problem. He might want to stand a little bit further back, so it's harder to bomb him. Being all the way in the door is an opportunity for a soldier to maybe pogo in.
Ooh. But looks like the entire combo is just going through Big Door. We send Strange Diplomat all the way in, wanting to go get a kill. Wonton is going to accidentally, Crater, Strange Diplomat, and Ubermorph are going to be the first casualties. And it's despite this is this was a push that was not well prepared, unfortunately, because that is going to be a full wipe coming in from IYS.
Yeah, so they're gonna push into last here with basically an Uber ad here. Is it really advisable right now for them to push, or should they wait for this Uber delta?
They can definitely pressure, try and spam down a gun, spot for off classes, but they should probably just wait for the Uber before committing anyone too far.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways, if you do wipe an enemy team, if you are fast enough, you can straight go to last, but you have to be fast enough and position yourself and know where to position yourself to stuff them in the last. And well, Supersoft did manage to win the fight. They weren't necessarily fast enough. It looks like they wanted to elect to, you know, capture second altogether and play out the Uber ad, which is currently working out. Deuce have a heavy and a demo. Ooh, good bomb coming in from Gigos and Epic Disc. Looks like it's going to be a full wipe. And that's going to be the second round for Supersoft. Really well done. Beautiful push right there.
You could see there on IYS, the heavy and pyro drop down to the floor to basically meet that Uber, but you don't want to meet the Uber. You really want to kite it out and try to avoid as much damage as possible, while maybe at the minimum sacrificing your pyro there to deny the Uber for the most part and drain it out.
Yeah, I have to emphasize again, IYS had every single player on the top left, which made the Uber just kill all of them really easily.
Yeah, so heading into the next one, it's a Gigos bomb, a Gigos bomb.
Big bomb coming in from Gigos, and it's a high risk, high reward mid. You know, you send in your soldier all the way to their big door, and killed the medic right off the bat. Did a lot of damage to everyone else as well. So you know they could roll straight to last with this. Wonton right now really weak, retreating only with 7 HP, and with 80% on Transformers, this is looking like a quick round, and this could close out the half.
Yeah. One thing for medics entering Gellywash mid, you want to look at the skybox and see if you can actually enter the elbow area before you get bombed. If you can't, you might have to walk in the other direction.
And looks like we do have a last push coming in with the Uber. Right now, the Pyro being a little bit more effective, pushing off the medic. And, oh, this looks like a full wipe. Really well done. We did see Frog spawn in, but unfortunately was cut off because of the Pyro. One of the main factors a Pyro really works well in last is the Air Blast. You might not be able to push back the whole combo, but if you can push back the medic from the heal target, that heal target isn't shiny anymore.
Yeah, and I do want to mention there too, having the pyro on Gully Watch Last specifically is ideal for the pyro class just because it's Gully Watch Last is such an enclosed space that it's really easy to deny the choke points like Shutter and River. But they're gonna push into second.
Yeah,
In here,
IYS
guys.
has full ad here, and so it looks like they're trying to chase the medic down. They can't go too aggressive. Their medic, look, yes, they went a little too far there. You want to back up a little bit before your Uber ends, or get the rest of your team in. Only having the Uber players come in is a way to get collapsed on.
I do want to point out here, guys, you saw the soldier and the demo here from Super Soft Birthday as they push in a second here, even though they lose their medic, you saw how quick they were to take high ground. High ground in TF2 is, king to everything in terms of positioning. Fleskore, what worked out so well there for them?
Being able to being in a better position. They did lose Transformers, but overall positioning matters a whole lot in this game. And the way how they played, their team play was just superior to IYS. IYS does get the opportunity to defend last, but and they do also have Uber 30% advantage. But regardless of which, holding being forced to your last is never a great position, because this is you know one mistake, even if it's a small one, could lead into you losing the round. So you definitely want to be careful. You need to be playing really well and as a team.
Guys, I do want to take note here. So while IYS did have Uber ad there. Oh, sorry, I believe I did cut out there for a second. But while IYS did have Uber ad there, they chose not to push out of last. Why was that the case, though?
Pushing out of last with Uber ad, you really need your ad to be big enough because it takes a lot of time to clear everything and to make sure you're not going to get back capped. Also, just pushing out a blast, it's the most dangerous point to push out of.
Because it caps fast and it caps really easily, and you could just have if a scout was hiding somewhere, that's an easy back cap, and you just lose the half. So definitely have to be careful there. We did see Gigos trying to go for a sack. Did go in alone, and we are gonna see a possible counter sack. We see Wonton playing a little bit aggressive, trying to make trying to make some space. But for the most part, it looks like Gigos is gonna be able to respawn and possibly gonna sack in again. We are in that situation where the round timer is actually bigger than the match timer for this half. So if Supersoft really wants to, they could just park the bus right here and force IYS to come up with the decision, a way to break the stalemate.
How would they do that though? It's kind of there's only 2 minutes left, so there's a limited amount of time to get the sack off. With Gigos down, maybe you could expect an off class here.
Yeah,
Maybe.
one of the best desperation plays, if the other team's not expecting it, is definitely Spy. That is especially viable in all divisions. People can just forget that class exists, and then your medic will drop.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
and I do want to mention here with this pyro, wait, they're using here fleskore. What's going on here?
Ooh, looks like they all wanted to push into last, but the Pyro is doing a really nice job, just keeping them all stuffed in a corner. Ubermorth is going to go down, but that's going to be 2 frags from the side of IYS, and it's going to be a counter Uber pop. Gigos is also going to go down. It looks like it's going to be Frog and Transformers being chased down by the Scout. Needs to reload the scatter gun, just going to be going in. Garrick is going to find the Frog eventually, and it's going to be up to both of them, leaving River. Oh no, the medic getting disconnected from the Scout. They are going to be leaving Choke together, thankfully. Oh, Garrick is actually going to find Transformers. This is big. This is massive. This is they. Oh, this is. There's going to be one little. There's one opportunity, but Gigos actually managed to find Zagaton. That could be the saving grace for Supersoft in winning this half here.
Yeah. In this situation, I would actually recommend having your demo big door just because you don't have heals and you might want to leave really quickly, and having your demo on that side makes it easier.
Right, and with only 40 seconds here, you don't really want to commit to fighting the second point here. You can see that IYS are trying to commit to the second, but in the off chance that they do get rolled, it's really easy to just cap second and cap last, just based on the fact that the cap timers are faster from second to last. But with only 25 seconds left, we have a bit of a lull here because it's pretty much virtually impossible unless IYS does wipe here that Supersoft Birthday can get a third round to finish the half. So to finish this off, they're just really going to go for the stats here.
Wonton did hit a really nice air shot onto Frogs, but regardless of anything, this is more just like consolation frags. Transformers is gonna find a Saw, but the half is gonna go to Supersoft Birthday, 2-1.
Right. And guys, I do want to talk about the whole overview of this half. So to start off, we had a round coming from IYS. Obviously, we noticed early to start the game that Gigos had a very aggressive bomb into the big door of IYS that got really punished, and they seemed a bit disjointed throughout the first round. But towards these next 2 rounds, we saw Supersoft Birthday getting, calming their nerves, getting the team all around and coordinating together. We do notice on the side of IYS is that they go for these really unconventional Uber exchanges. So, for example, there was one scenario where they pushed from big door on even Uber in an Uber situation, and they used first. So they used right as they came out through big door. That didn't work out for them because they were primarily on the lower floor. So why is it bad on an even Uber situation, Delta, go when you're pushing from second to mid to use immediately from big door and just be on the low ground for the entire Uber? Just the fact that you're first doesn't seem ideal either.
Yeah, it's really easy for the other team to just get away from your Uber and not have to use. They're on the high ground, so if you bomb them, your medic's probably not even going to be able to flash you. And if he is, he's probably going to walk in so far he'll just die after the Uber anyways.
Right. I definitely agree with that. And just being on that low ground and having used Uber, your Uber is going to diminish first. So it's very ideal, at least at the higher level. So throughout this game, we have seen a lot of even Uber exchanges where one team will instantly use, and then the other team will counter use or try to milk. But usually, the team that uses later tends to be the one coming out on top, or the team that has the high ground positioning does come out on top. Now, fleskore. There were times where a team used in to push into a point with Uber ad, but for some reason they would just wipe after the Uber. And we noticed a lot in a lot of these situations where what the enemy team with this ad just went in and committed all their players to the Uber to the combo as the Uber was ending. Why is that a good play to make?
So, uh, what a lot of people don't realize is that there's actually two stages to an Uber push, and one of them is the actual Uber, like gaining position or frags, using that invulnerability that you have. You have 8 seconds maximum. Um, it diminishes whenever you flash players. You lose half of that. Um, so so you lose half of that every single time you flash a player. And the second part is the post Uber fight, and that's like that's your team's positioning, and that's the enemy team's response to the space that you took or the frags that you took. So whenever you do Uber in and you don't get a lot of frags, you always want to end either in a high ground position, so that's just a favorable position in general, or you end up pushing them away, pushing them towards choke areas, pushing them towards doorways. So if the enemy team does feel like maybe we can fight this, maybe we can win this fight, it's going to be a lot harder for them to push back into you because they have to go through choke areas, and you just have your soldiers and your demo set up just to spam that and making sure that if they're gonna push back into you, they have to use resources.
So guys, heading into this next mid, what do you want to see differently from the side of IYS in order to cut this one round deficit? Delta, you specifically, because these soldier bonds have been key to winning the mids.
I really want to see them try and coordinate them better and have their team run across point during the bomb.
Yeah, and we saw early on in this mid, Gigos once again going for that aggressive bomb. Repeating that same bomb
Ooh.
again is not good, and they're just gonna lose everybody for it. Just having Gigos down leads them to backing up towards their choke there, and they're gonna keep this chase up, fleskore.
Oh, this is beautiful coming in from the side of IYS. That was a beautiful mid. They did lose a few players, but the way how the soldiers bombed in after recognizing their advantage and kept going in forced them into a corner, and then afterwards it was just down to frogs and transformers. That was it. It was over. They won the mid, and not only that, they're gonna have full over advantage to push into last. So this is a pretty great position to be in.
I want to note here this last setup here to counter the Uber diss ad here, but they're gonna be pushing in a little bit too quickly because they do have full Uber ad, but these sticky traps on the ring here might be a bit hard to break as they try to get the cap. So maybe they want to kill the demo early on in this Uber. What do you think here for the side of IYS, guys?
Uh, I would definitely recommend just going in through river. Because Supersoft is really aggressive here. There's a lot of players this Uber can kill.
Oh, yeah, this is a really good push. They got transformers. They got frogs. Those are the first two frags coming in the last push, and and after that you lost heals and you lost the main primary, like your main explosive class. So that was just really well done, and it's gonna be tied. It's gonna be 2-2 on the
Yeah.
second half.
On these last holds, both of these teams keep having their team on the top left really aggressively. They should really be more passive than that.
And guys, I do want to note here, after these mids, Supersoft Birthday are always on the back end, and you can see here after losing Gigos, they're just backing up to their choke here. And as we mentioned earlier, just having your team in this area, backing up and giving up the space leads your team to just getting spammed out for the mid. So the teams are trading players, but in terms of positional advantage, IYS has it. Supersoft Birthday are going to back up to second here, and it's going to be hard for them to push back into mid. Gigos is doing something that is, I would say, very repetitive. It's not ideal, and his team is losing the mid because he dies very early on that. Delta, what do you think Gigos can do to change it up?
I think he could really just delay, so he can bomb into the enemy big door, and then after a certain amount of time, when his team's on his side, he can do the same bomb he was doing from the other team's side and coordinate with his team.
Ooh, looks like we're gonna have an Uber exchange here. IYS wanted to push into second, but oh, this is a really great Uber push. They do lose Epic Disc and Frogs, but they do manage to get Zakaton Strange and Uber Morph. And oh, Wonton actually does manage to find Transformers, and this is a pretty scrappy fight. But it looks like it is. Oh wow, IYS actually does manage to hold it off despite losing everyone except for Microsoft PowerPoint.
So, guys, while it would, oh, actually, there's action going on second here. Microsoft PowerPoint is
Oh,
going to get rolled here as he tries to fight off these two soldiers, but his combo's going to come back in. But I wanted to roll back a little earlier to that fight. You saw that Supersoft Birthday kept chasing in the post-Uber exchange through the choke points, and it led to a really scrappy fight. Was it? I mean, obviously they wiped for it, but in those kind of situations, is it really ideal to keep chasing there? Delta.
it,
Um, Probably not.
oh,
Usually, you want to try and consolidate around the point, and your team.
Ooh.
Ooh, looks like Gigos does manage to find Zakaton, so that's gonna be Uber advantage coming in, and this is gonna be numbers advantage as well. Zakaton just respawned. They are up in this river area, winning the 1v1, getting good damage across the board. There is no heals on the side of IYS. Oh, but they're all clumped up in one area. Ubermorth trying to bomb in is going to be denied. Is going to be piped one. Zakaton is going to go down yet again. Gigos is going to find Ubermorph. And despite having the advantage, that one med pick from Gigos managed to change it all around.
Yeah, the main instigator there was uh Gigos sneaking in through baby door, flanking around from the big door into the choke point and dropping the medic there. And they're gonna push back into mid here. Our super soft birthday, and they're taking the fight. Our IYS, but they're at Uber dissad. They're at complete Uber dissad. This is a very unideal Uber, and Gigos is gonna bomb from the banana side. He'll get a good bomb and force them back, but
Oh
this seems
no.
this seems to be segmented out. They're losing their players going in one by one, and they're gonna have to concede all the way back to second, and potentially this Uber too.
Yeah, something I've noticed from something that I noticed from the side of Supersoft is that they have the Uber advantage, and looks like they were getting the spam and they were getting the space. IYS was respecting that, playing this a little bit passive, but something happened. There was some faulty communication there, and it looks like they retreated way too early before the push actually came out. That led to the death of Frogs and Gigos, but
Yeah,
looks like the server is either paused or dead. Uh, Hopefully it's the former, but that does give us an opportunity to talk about some things.
yeah. I do want to talk earlier about that point before Delta cut off there. Hopefully he'll be back soon, but like we said, actually, I do want to mention here, I am, the server may be in a pause or a DDoS situation. Who knows what's going on? But the problem there for these pushes in general is a team tends to overchase. So like we said in the halftime, there is the essence of a post Uber fight. But this is I would say a different scenario where both teams exchange around the same time where they have the Uber, and it's a matter of having the picks and then pushing during the post Uber exchange, but over chasing. But over chasing is not really ideal in a sense. But why is over chasing not a good idea?
Usually, when you overchase, the team can't really stay together. So if you have 5 people, they have 3. When you overchase, some of your classes are going to get there first, and then they'll just die. So you really have to, if you're going to chase, you have to make sure your entire team can get there at the same time, or at least you can have player advantage when you get there.
Right, and it's just not ideal on the end for to overchase, especially not knowing how to assess the situation, especially at these levels in amateur and I would say newcomer, somewhere around that, and even IM to an extent towards the lower skill level of that IM division. It's hard to keep track of what's going on in a post super fight. So you really have to make the decision of based on your team's coordination. How are you confident enough to have the synergy to take those post super fights? For this game specifically, we've seen a lot of scenarios where both teams overchased on an even Uber fight during the post Uber and got both got punished for it. At a higher level, it's very easy to get punished. At least in these lower levels, there isn't enough coordination and synergy to punish overchasing. So it can be a seesaw in terms of who comes out on top during these even Uber fights, depending on the situations. But right now it's 2-2. Both teams are putting up a really good fight here for us tonight, and I'm really surprised based on how these teams have like seesawed across these 4 rounds. Personally,
Yeah, it's pretty surprising. Looks like there is some troubles here and there, but both these teams are doing pretty well. Looks like we are going to be pushing in after the pause is over, and it's not. Mm, this push isn't looking too great from the side of IYS. There is going to be an Uber coming in from the side of Supersoft. Oh, Zakaton at 1 HP, like barely alive, but does manage to find the pack. And looks like they do want to stay here, understanding that they do have the Uber advantage at this point. They do have Uber, and they can use it if necessary. Uber Morth is going to find Rose. Really well done. And that's gonna be a one push from Zakaton with full Uber advantage to go straight into last. They have all the respawners right now.
and to boot though, even though they do have that, they are at Uber Disad, and they are trying to push into River here. Our super soft birthday, and I'm not really liking this right now, but they are getting the
Oh,
picks. This could turn really scrappy real close as the Ubers pop out.
the Ubers just pop out, and there was a pretty nice pipe from Strange Diplomat, and that's gonna let Garrett get a quick, fast 3K. Garrick right now going off, and it's gonna be. Looks like IYS took the advantage right afterwards, taking it 3-2 on the second half. Really well done. Holy, that was incredible. You saw the one pipe connected and followed up on the damage perfectly.
Yeah, and we can go over that later because that was such an insane Uber from Garrick. Delta, this is gonna be another mid again, and I'm hoping that something turns up differently. But Gigos goes for the bomb and gets a trade, but it's the same cookie cutter mid from Super Soft Birthday. And look at them, they're all the way back at their choke minus Dark, and Dark's gonna
Oh,
die too, and they're gonna wipe again.
oh,
Yeah, I really don't like that bomb, especially not doing it multiple times in a row. The other team is just aware it's going to happen, and it's just not going to work if you repeat it.
And fleskore, to go back to that earlier round that IYS just won, what there's a lot of power in the scout class, you know. Having Ubers led by your pocket scout there from Garrick, for example, scout Ubers are devastating as long as the pieces fall into place for them. And we saw, like you said, with that pipe. Why is it really good to lead on a scout for Ubers like these?
due to the medic tether speed, the medic can keep up with the scout. The demo is gonna lag behind a little, but a scout is just a powerful class, being able to double jump and also being once you're invulnerable and you're up close quarters with the scout, you have no issues of like having to worry about anything like, oh, I'm too close, I'm gonna be taking damage. You're invulnerable, you don't have to worry about that. Your only worry is going close and closing the distance between you and your opponent.
And we do see here it's currently an even Uber situation in the last. But you see here that the flank, especially Epic Disc on the side of Superstar Birthday, are trying to take the fight in the lobby. But right now with the heavy, there's nobody really to follow up for it. I think they're trying to play for the counter sack here. Delta, what? How are they gonna break this heavy? This heavy on point. Actually, I don't think the heavy is positioned optimally to deny counter sacks from IYS.
Yeah, I think just doing Something through Shutter because it's not trapped. Having a scout run through Shutter, a soldier maybe jump through Launchpad. You really just can ignore the heavy.
Ooh. And looks like this Uber push does go in. Wonton is gonna find a frag. So is Garrick, but with this ending right now, it's looking like a scrappy fight. But IYS does have a lot of cap time, and they are gonna find it, getting the 4th point and putting it into match point for them.
Yeah,
Oof.
just to mention there on the end of Super Soft Birthday, having that heavy position, like Delta said, makes it hard for the medic to catch up and flash the heavy in the Uber. And you saw with that Uber, IYS took the fight directly to point, catching out the unubered players. They chose to fight the unubered players there, which is not something you'd expect at this level, but it's a heads up play from them on their end. And heading into this mid, it's another Gigos bomb that goes punished.
Yeah, it's something you have to be careful of. Something I mentioned in the beginning. You can't be predictable, but something that's unpredictable right now. Frogs and Epic Disc doing wonders, doing a whole lot of damage. Look at the health on the side of IYS. It's just so little. It's all up to Microsoft PowerPoint not being able to do all that much. Gonna be retreating. Gonna be taking a 1v1 here against Dark. Uh, Oh, it's gonna be winning that 1v1, but regardless of anything, your team basically full wiped that mid, and right now you're on the back end.
We do see here for this last push, Delta, we have two pyros. I'm not actually sure if this is legal, but one of them is swapping back. So I am pretty sure it's going to be pyro, but just one pyro. But how are they? How does Supersoft Birthday want to push this last push? They're currently down 4-2. The pyro's actually towards water. So this is going to be an interesting last hole to break. How are they going to do this as they push in the river?
Into them, top right. Their entire combo is stuck in. The Uber should just go for all of these picks. It looks
They're going
like
for cap time. They just went for cap time.
somehow, yeah, that's crazy. There were a lot of players in. Someone definitely could have blocked point, but I guess they didn't.
Yeah, it seemed to be that Supersoft had the mind of like, all right, don't worry about frags all that much. Kill anyone that gets in our way. Our main focus here is getting the point, and they bum rushed. I think there was like ×5 at some point. So really well done. And looks like we're going to the same mid. Gigos is going to be going in first casualty. Seems to be a reoccurring theme as we've mentioned multiple times. And off of that bomb, look at what happened. Supersoft is holding second passively.
Yeah, so Delta, you saw that Supersoft Birthday tends to back up the choke here, and it's really the best play you can make when you lose a soldier that early on the mid.
Yeah, you kind of just have to leave. And I don't know why they tried to stay in here and fight. Down two, it's especially soldiers. You can't stuff a doorway. You're gonna have to try and stay in the high ground and then eventually run away.
Oh, the cap time, the cap time.
Yep. So this is the case where you can just push last, even though you don't have Uber. The entire team's dead, so just walk in and go to point, and it'll work.
It was a very hard fought match. It ends with the IYS victory, 5-3 over Supersoft Birthday, and I do want to congratulate IYS for winning that match. It was a very hard fought one, you know, being to have that mental fortitude to, even though you dropped the first round, just come back and get back into the game and just win it out for your team. Uh, there were a lot of mistakes, but that's okay, especially at this level, because you know you have to work the kinks out. And like Fleskore mentioned, we do have, I believe, one of these teams are a newbie mixed team. And closing thoughts on the match. Uh, for me personally, I do want to specifically aim my targets towards Gigos. I think the impact that he had, at least in terms of giving IYS the victory, is something you can't just ignore because when mid fights are a huge momentum swing in terms of positioning, when your team loses at mid and has to get eventually potentially concede second all the way to last, you know, a lot of games, even at the higher levels, are make or break by the mid fight, and losing that is not ideal for your team. So IYS did anticipate Gigos' bomb.
I did post the logs if you want to analyze this a little, but looking at the damage spread or looking at the deaths, Gigo's 12 deaths. It's kind of standard for a roamer to like have a lot of deaths, but a lot of those are just mids. And every single mid, Gigos was more or less one of the first people to die. And it is a high risk, high reward play to go like bomb really aggressively on for the medic or just straight up the combo, do a bunch of damage, and have the team follow up. But you can't do it every mid. It gets predictable, and they'll expect they can either play passive, they'll either have their scouts look up in the sky, and they just deny you. It's incredibly dangerous to do it every single mid. And if you're gonna be doing it, I definitely recommend mixing up something. Maybe you could just play on because Gigo's got onto mid pretty fast. Um, go on the nipple, just stand on top of the point, and just spam down rocket. It's a lot easier, a lot less committal, and at that point you can get another buff from your medic, and then go down on the ground if you want to. Maybe bomb them afterwards with the other soldier. But no one was really in a position to help out Gigos in those mid fights, and it allowed a lot of that was just kind of done in vain. Even if Gigos managed to have a lot of damage across the board, it it's kind of hard to follow up on that because no one is really there. No one's really prepared for that. So
Yeah, and Delta, I do want to mention on the other hand, these post tubers, they kind of seesawed back and forth, but a lot of these post tubers really ended in a single soldier just bombing in, killing one of the medics, and then it just turned into a frag fest from there. How can you prevent that? Because I mean, on Gully Wash, it's hard to really keep eyes on a soldier and deny them as a scout because scout obviously on Gully Wash is not, it's not the optimal map for scouts. So, for how can it's not just a scout though that is causing the medic to die. Sometimes it's the medic's own positioning that causes them to die to these single soldier bombs.
Yeah, the medics really need to be aware of where the soldiers are, and just because you can't see them doesn't mean you can't make a really good guess. If you're through choke and you don't see the soldiers, you know they're on the floor and they're almost certainly on your side. And so, with that in mind, if you um, can rotate to kind of like the middle area, maybe near the boxes or even further back into choke, and have both of your scouts with you there, it should be safe enough. There's nothing wrong in a post fight in actually backing all the way out of choke in some cases if you get double bombed, because then you can just kill the soldiers and come back in.
Right, right. And just overall, like we said, guys, it's very hard for these teams to, simply deny soldier bomb because at this level, it's really hard to, understand where you need to be because the way that you kite and survive most of these soldier bombs comes with experience. So as you play games, as you scrim, as these teams go out through the season, they're gonna start learning more and more how to play each map. And it's a general rule of thumb of how to play and position yourself. It's even harder to understand on a map by map basis. And Gully Wash, being the first week, is soldiers galore. So it was really a battle of which team in terms of their projectile classes were able to work the map more, and it just turned out in the end that IYS did win. So congrats to them. Do we? And I do want to end on a precursory note that this is this project is going to be continuing through the season. So you will see us every Wednesday, maybe even more, at 9:30 to be going over the maps and casting these matches in the style that we just did today. And Fleskore, Delta, I would say this was a really good first match for many newer players that are curious about sixes to watch and just see all these mistakes that these teams were making, but not just the mistakes, also the plays that they were making that were the correct decisions.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely it doesn't necessarily have to be new players. Like there are some a beauty the beauty of like having of spectating these like lower these players that usually don't get the spotlight is there are some strategies that some of these people do that we don't necessarily see too often, just because they're not necessarily bound by the old conventional style of TF2 that a lot of us are used to playing. Like, it's all a lot of it's like rigid and but these people, a lot of the creativity can just kind of come out, and we can see some really unique plays. Like, I remember I was casting an IM game like a few years back, and there was some of the plays I saw them do was just blew my mind. I would have never guessed. I would have never assumed to break a stalemate that way. So really, I love watching and these teams compete, just because it's a breath of fresh air. We've all seen Banny win invite. We've all seen Witness Gaming do well, and we've all seen that. But we saw the wonton bombs. That's what I want to see. I want to see the wonton bombs.
Yeah, we want to see we want to see these players when they're first developing into potential future invite players. That's what we're here to see. Uh, I do want to close it out here because we're kind of running this post game talk a little too long, but I do want to give my props once again to IYS for winning 5-3 and Super Soft Birthday. Obviously, you guys did put up a good fight. Make sure that you guys eventually watch the demo, understand what you guys did wrong, and maybe you could also have a mentor or somebody with a higher level of experience go through the map with you, so that should you make playoffs in the future, you can refine your play on this map should you have to play it in playoffs. So I'm gonna close it out here. I'm Jay, and my co-casters here are deltamarket and fleskore. Any shoutouts, guys, temporarily? I do want to shout out Newbie Mix for my end, because Newbie Mix does tie into this project here, where if you want to get that experience, go into a Newbie Mix. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to let people watch you make mistakes, and don't be afraid to make mistakes yourself. The whole point of Newbie Mixes is to learn. So, fleskore.
I don't think I have any other shout outs. Good stuff to Antlers. Thank you for producing. Been a long time. We've been doing Fireside since I think season 3 of RGL. So you know,
How about you, Delta?
Yeah, shout out to Antlers and shout out to Apt.
Oh, and yeah, I would like to thank Antlers too. We did some last minute preparation for this first broadcast of Trial by Fireside. It was a bit rough at first, but we're gonna work out our kinks of the season, and hopefully we can provide you guys a better experience and plan better should we be starting to do more coverage throughout the season. So thank you all, and take care, everybody.